Hello, ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys. You are now entering Season 2 of the Swan Hockey Podcast. Swan Hockey is flying around the junior hockey world one episode at a time. You'll experience things dreams are made of, as well as things of terrible nightmares. Strap in, hold on, and enjoy the ride. And now, Swan Hockey.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Swan Hockey Season 2. We're going to be doing another weekend review episode. And before we do, a little announcement here. We've added an Ask a Question tab to the swanhockey.com website. So if you want to ask a question to the show, feel free to go on the website, submit your question. Also a reminder that we have the new way of doing the streaming rewards. We're still going to give out a code here for this episode, but this might be the last one because we have that new way of doing it. For help with that, feel free to join the Discord. Also, I want to hear from you guys in the Discord. Let me know what you think of these episodes. Let me, weigh in on them. Let me know your thoughts on the topics. And let's get into it. So something that was really, I guess, one of the big takeaways, something that I noticed this weekend was the North American Hockey League, the scores. And with all these changes going on over the last 12 months or, give or take with the CHL, the NCAA, it's obviously formed a restructuring. Players have different things that they're willing to do, different places they're willing to go play. And I think a lot of everything underneath the CHL, I think, has kind of lost their top talent. I think the leagues have, maybe gotten, not as strong as they've been in years past. I mean, even leagues like where you look at the North American Hockey League, how many guys did they lose to the CHL? Might be very minimal, but the USHL lost guys to the CHL, right? The BCHL lost guys to to the CHL. So you might have guys that were, the North American Hockey League probably lost a good amount of guys to the USHL, or maybe guys that, went to the BCHL, for whatever reason, thought, greener grass, wanted to go over to BCHL, thought there was greener grass there. And same thing for every league underneath the North American Hockey League, right? It's the trickle up, trickle down effect where this restructuring, I think it's hurt every league in terms of, and I don't know if hurt's the right word, but in terms of every league's top talent, yeah, I'd say it's hurt the league because those guys have gone up to the next level. So looking at some of the scores in the North American Hockey League, and I think this is abnormal. I don't really think we've seen it like this. And this could just be an abnormal weekend, but really interesting is some of these scores. So Friday night, you got Johnstown Tomahawks beating the Rochester Junior Americans 7-0. You got, scrolling down here, you got the Bismarck Bobcats beat the St. Cloud Norsemen 9-1. What else we got? We got that. So that was it for Friday night, right? But now going over to Saturday night, we got the Northeast Generals beating the Elmira Aviators 9-0. And then we have Rochester Junior Americans, who lost 7-0 to Johnstown the night before, beat the Johnstown Tomahawks on Saturday night 12-3. Like, these scores are crazy. You got Aberdeen over Minot 5-0, which isn't that crazy. And then you got Lone Star over Oklahoma 7-1. Now, these scores, again, this weekend could just be a crazy weekend, but these scores are almost more indicative of what's been going on in Tier 3. And it's surprising because the North American Hockey League has always been pretty tight, but seeing these scores this weekend of these Tier 3 blowouts, these baseball scores, it's very, very surprising. And again, this could just be one crazy weekend. We'll see. But this could also be kind of a new normal where we're seeing the quality of every league under the CHL kind of lose its luster a little bit. It's a little bit of a lower quality of player, which is okay, right? Doesn't mean that the league's not going to survive. It's just different than what we've been used to. And it's an interesting observation. So if you take a league and a level like the North American Hockey League, that's always been pretty tight, because the player demand has been there and the player pool has been there. Now it's kind of loosening up. The player pool isn't really as tight, or not as many players in the pool as previous years, which might mean harder work on the recruiting aspect, right? Like I've said it for years that in Tier 3 junior hockey, the team you play for is much more important than the league that you play in. And you got to put a ton of emphasis on the organization you're in, and that all are not created equal. I mean, a lot of that, the organization you're in is always, top of the list, if not the top of the list in most situations. But we might be seeing even more of this now in the North American Hockey League, where recruiting's maybe not so much a layup anymore. And I don't know if layup's the right term, like not that it was like ever easy, but it might be harder than ever now and more competitive than ever now to get the right players on your North American Hockey League team. And maybe that's what we're seeing. Now maybe we're going to really see the best recruiters in the league and, rise to the top here. But again, we'll see what happens here as time goes on. This could have just been one, weekend anomaly. But let me know what you guys think. Put it in the Discord. Let me know what you guys think. Weigh in on it. If you play for one of these teams, feel free to weigh in. If you've watched these teams, weigh in. Ask your questions. Yeah, I want to hear from you. One thing that's really interesting is the Johnstown and Rochester situation is that they each took a turn blowing each other out, right? So it's not like it's one team just getting, the crap kicked out of them repeatedly. It's like that's definitely different than Tier 3. So again, this weekend could be an anomaly, but let's see what happens. But it's just very interesting. I'm going to give Bill Underwood a call right now and see if we can get him on here. Hey, Bill, what's going on?
Oh, not too much. Just another weekend of early season action. So
Yep. No, I hear you. So I'm doing an episode right now, and I'm looking at the scores to this past weekend in the North American Hockey League, and some of them. Let me go back here. I'm gonna rip them off to you real quick. We got like some of the scores just seem to be getting out of hand. Like so, Johnstown over Rochester 7-0. What else we got? We got Bismarck over St. Cloud 9-1. We've got Northeast over Elmira 9-0. We got Rochester over Johnstown now 12-3. We've got Aberdeen over Minot 5-0, which isn't really that bad. And then we've got that was it. So some of those scores, to me, it's indicative of Tier 3. Like I don't really think we've seen this before in the NA, and it could just be a crazy anomaly weekend, but I also think it's partly of the new structure with with everybody's best players kind of going up. And I think that the player pool may not be as populated in years past for the North American League. Like some of those high-end players in the player pool are now off to other leagues, whether it's, maybe a few to the CHL, even more to the USHL, maybe a few, greener grass situations into the BCHL. And I think that it could be that it's becoming more indicative of Tier 3, and in terms of that coaches, it's harder to it's a bigger job to recruit now, right? Like where that player pool may not be as filled as in years past and is filled with, willing players willing to come to the league. And in Tier 3, I've always said, and I know you've always said too, the organization you play in is extremely important, and, all are not created equal. Do you think we're starting to see that in the North American Hockey League, like where it's a harder job to recruit?
not really. I think it's a harder job in hockey right now in general. Even in the CHL, it's a harder job because now, we have guys leaving for the NCAA early, and the NCAA in a way has gotten more difficult because now, in a way, there's an abundance of talent, but there's disparity of teams' ability to bring in that talent because some teams have more nil money than others, and also you have a scenario where academics are differing in there. So it's gotten more complex all across the board. North American Hockey League is a place where a lot of players are very happy going. Granted,
you would say that it is getting, like, it's harder across the board, like North American League included?
Everybody, everybody, it's harder because for one thing, has changed. So none of us really understand the full implications of change yet. Nobody, and it's something that's going to be an evolutionary thing that may even still change, go down some different roads we didn't expect. Over the next couple of years, it's an adjustment factor, and so nobody really knows what's coming next, and we know that that there's so much uncertainty, and that has made it more difficult. Now, the early season scores, I think a lot of that is partially that we have a new reality everybody's adjusting to, but more, I think I've seen a lot of weird stuff in all the leagues, different weird, odd things going on. And part of it also is, especially as you move down from like the CHL and to a degree the USHL, the problem you have is also just what you said, guys coming back, and you have a little bit instability in rosters. You're also looking at a lot of guys. You have guys that are coming in, you're taking a look at, and you'll sometimes be rotating some guys into the lineup and out of the lineup. I see a lot of that in junior, and I think that's something that happens every year, but now maybe a little bit more so. You're sifting through players a little bit more. So it's
I think the recruiting job is bigger.
Well, it is, absolutely. And, you have guys drifting down, slipping down that you're watching and coming down, and you're having to make a decision on a player. Do I keep this guy or not? He's not necessarily a guy you're evaluating coming down. He's a guy you already have. Do I want to keep him or not? So you want to sift through those guys. You might bring some affiliated players in that are stopgaps for a moment because you're bringing the USHL guy in. So instead of going and signing a guy and saying you're staying, you bring an affiliated guy in to fill a spot and hold that spot while the guy is coming down. It's an adjustment process. I think there are a lot of kids that want to play in the North American League. I don't discern any difference from what it used to be there. The only difference is now, of course, the talent pool is sifting out.
Right. Guys
still want to play in the NAHL.
Yes,
it's the same old story. I want to play in the NAHL, but I prefer to play in the USHL. And that's as old as the hills.
What I meant more like in terms of the player pool, like there's always going to want to be people that play, players that want to play in the league. What I meant is that that player pool that used to be right, that top layer of the pool, they couldn't go play CHL. Right. It's like they were going to be there. Yeah. Those were slam dunk players. We all know they could play in the North American League. There's no question. Like that top layer of the pool, slam dunk. Right. And then that middle layer of the pool. Okay. Now this is where your scouts make the money, and hopefully we got the right players. And then that bottom layer of the pool, it's like, okay, not really going to pay too much attention to it. There might be a guy or, there might be needles and haystacks there, but we're never going to get that deep into the pool. So we're never going to have to go look for the needles and the haystacks. Now I think a lot of that top layer is gone. And I think now we do have to go into looking for the needles and the haystacks. And I think there's a lot more opportunity for wrong decisions to be made. I think that, again, I think it's a little bit of uncharted territory for some of these coaches in terms of doing things, just doing things differently than in years past. I think they got to dig deeper into the pool, which is more work, more opportunity for mistakes made. And I think that could be contributing to seeing some lopsided games. And maybe it is just early on, and it could be, beginning of the year, settling, as you're saying, like with the trickle down effect with the, just the normal, okay, USHL, sorting their rosters, CHL sorting their rosters, NHL just sorted their rosters, which obviously affects the CHL, which is going to affect everything else. Or maybe it's just a whole anomaly weekend and we never see anything like this again. I don't know, but those are my thoughts. And and I wanted to bring you on and get your thoughts. So thank you, Bill.
I think there are some anomalies there, and we'll still see some odd lopsided scores in all the leagues now and again, but always have. Now, the other thing I will bring up is early season watching games is very typical early season. Most games I've watched at every level, I'll say this: the team play is not so great. It's not necessarily bad. It's not really bad players. It's just that in terms of team chemistry, a lot of teams are, and part of this may have to do with the whole instability thing, because even down in midget, I see a lot of teams are saying, well, their system just is not down yet. They don't have their chemistry yet. They haven't really established themselves. And so I've seen a lot of sloppy hockey played, but it's not because we have bad players. It's because, and it's not that we have bad coaches. It's just a matter that the systems haven't really been absorbed yet and really going yet. And I think one part of it is that you have a situation early season now where we go so early there's a few exhibition games, and again, it's all game heavy. We don't have a lot of time to do practice and to work on different aspects in practice. And when you go down levels, like even down to midget 18s and whatnot, they don't sometimes have quite enough guys there at practice to run all the drills they should be running.
Right. Yeah. But same holds true for both sides, right? The team that's winning 9-0 or 12-3, they also didn't, they suffer from the same, imperfections of, practices and systems and whatnot. But yeah, no, it's interesting. We'll see how everything plays out here.
Well,
But
the best answer I can give to that is some teams gel faster than others.
100%.
And some just
100%.
And some lineups gel faster than others. Maybe they've had less changes. Maybe
Absolutely.
they've been more stable. And early season, it's almost like the old days. You have exhibition games, and we still do, but they're not very long exhibition seasons. So a lot of the first month of the season, I almost look like this exhibition play. Even in the NHL to a degree, because NHL doesn't use their regulars so often in games and exhibition games. You have so much lineup shifting and whatnot in exhibition games. How many games? It's not like the old days where a team would play.
Yeah, but
12,
that's what I'm saying, right? Like I think the recruiting process is getting harder, right? It's taking these guys longer to find what clicks, to find the players they want to roll with all season. I think it's I think it is maybe elongating that process.
It possibly is, but also keep in mind in early season, it's not, again, as much that they're changing players, but getting lines set and getting the team system. Like just, for example, forwards and defense, gapping between the forwards and the defensemen. I see a lot of that, a lot of major gapping. There's a lot of space out there you're given. That shouldn't be given. And, that's team system stuff. That's stuff that has to get ingrained in a team. And, when you've only played a few games, it's hard to ingrain that, especially, now the youth level is worse. They have limited practice time. But, in junior, we have a constant influx and in and out of players. It's tough in a different way.
Yeah, but at the same time, though, again, like every team suffers from that. And that might be why lose or why you only win 2 out of your first 5 games of the season, slow start, yada, yada, or you're losing games 5-2, 6-3. But I mean, 12-3, 9-0, 7-0, whatever. Like, I mean, some of these scores, like these are bad baseball scores, right? But either way, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how this plays out.
Having been in the minors, like I say, in pro, sometimes you're that way early season in pro. Why? My best guy is still in the American Hockey League. My best guy hasn't come down yet. You're early season, you're still sitting there with that center.
Yeah, but you're not getting 10 gold though.
No, but you're still losing more than you should.
This is extreme, right? And I think something's different than it's always been. Yeah,
everything is. I think right now everything is different than the way it's always been. Everything is completely changed.
That's
are
my
we
point.
Adjusting? Sure. Yeah. We're adjusting. It's going to be an adjustment process, and hey, it may be this way. It may just be the new reality for a lot of teams and at every level.
I think that's what I said before I brought you on. I think that's what I said. Like this could be like, are we looking at the new normal, right? Like, are we going to see the North American League be a little bit looser than it's been in years past? Because I think the player pool is looser, or it's hard. I think it's a tougher job to put together the teams than it has been in years past. Like just different.
I think for the first month, you're certainly going to see stuff in every league a little bit different. But at the same time, as the season goes on, that's where coaching comes into play and the systems come into play. Teams settle down. It's like I say, it's like a prolonged exhibition season almost for all the leagues right now. And even the NHL, I always say, the first month of the season is almost like an exhibition season used to be in the 1960s. It's not really what you're going to see. When we get to December, these teams are still making decisions. They have some kids up that'll probably be gone. They're going to make some changes, and the system has to sink in. And it's it's something that, again, call it like a prolonged exhibition season. Now, is it going to be a different business period? Of course it is. Every level is different. It's a different business. NCAA teams, how many teams have one and dones now? And that's going to have a major impact on how they build their teams. You get some great players like Gavin McKenna, but he's to be there 1 year. You're going to have a lot of players that are one and done now.
I agree. I think it's changed, and I think it's gotten harder.
It is definitely getting harder. If you're a coach, there's no question. You have some leagues a little bit less talent, some more talent. And the other thing that comes into play, though, is a lot more instability for coaches and general managers at every level. And, it's going to be a difficult system to create order in, because you're still, even if you got the much vaunted idea of contracts and salary cap in college hockey, you still have a problem because you still have those one and dones, and that creates an absolute instability. You know?
All I know is that the ECHL coaches are probably laughing right now. That's got to be the hardest coaching job in any league. Coaching in the ECHL, those guys are basically playing with a different roster every weekend. Sometimes, maybe almost even every different game. Might be a little bit of an exaggeration, but that's ECHL coaches are probably laughing like, "What are you guys kidding me?" Like, we've been doing this to the extreme for how long? But no, that's awesome, Bill. Thank you very much for doing this. And guys, let us know what you think. Hop in the Discord. Give us your opinion.
Sure.
I will give you guys the proof of attendance code for this episode is going to be hockey. Enter it at swanhockey.io to get your proof of attendance token for this episode, which will also have your season pass points on it. These are pretty much stopping with the new season pass streaming rewards. And again, for more information, join the Discord, and I'll see you guys soon.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Swan Hockey Podcast. We remind you that season pass points are available to listeners. For more information, please visit www.swanhockey.io. Until next time.